Okay, good evening, everyone. The regular meeting of the Planning Board of the Village of Tarrytown will come to order. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for October 28th, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. There's a number of public hearings that we're continuing. Most of them are adjourned. We're very good at that process. Michael Degan, 86 Chris Drive, that's adjourned, subject to ZBA determination. Peter Bartolacci, 67 Miller Avenue, is adjourned. Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Mary, 32 Warren Avenue is adjourned. Artist Senior Living LLC, 153 White Plains Road is adjourned, pending village board approval of the zoning text amendment.
Which they actually received.
And Lexington 202 Group LLC, 29 South Depot Plaza, that's also adjourned. So it brings us to the first item that we can take action on, new public hearing. And let me read the public notice. Please take notice that the Planning Board of the Village of Tarrytown will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 25th, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 1 Depot Plaza, Tarrytown, New York, to hear an application by Annette Simoa, 11 to 13 Emerald Woods, Tarrytown, New York, 10591. To amend the site plan approval dated November 26th, 2018, to include additions and changes to the landscape plan and other site improvements. The property is located at L-13 Emerald Woods in the Village of Tarrytown, and is shown on the tax maps as sheet 1.190, block 112, lots 30 and 25 respectively, and it's located in an R60 zone. Documents are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office. All interested parties are invited to attend and be heard. Access to the meeting room is available to the elderly and the handicapped. Signing is available for the hearing impaired. Request must be made to the village clerk at least 1 week in advance of the meeting. By order of the Planning Board, Elizabeth Nazara, Secretary of the Planning Board, dated November 15, 2019. Okay, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. So I am...
State your name, please.
Oh, Annette Simao. I am the owner of 11 and 13 Emerald Woods. So I am just making some minor additions to the already approved site plan. I'm going to introduce my husband, Andre, who is doing most of the changes or the construction of it. There's some minor things such as a gate in the front driveway, and you can add on.
Do
And
you want to just point out the things that you're
Yeah.
changing?
we changing the driveway is supposed to be gravel, and I wanna put it premium pavements, like
The
porous pavement, they train.
Pavers.
Because pervious pavement, the whole thing. And we tried to remove a tree, it's leaning towards the new garage, situated here. And we removing this tree and add 25 trees, pine trees, close to the neighbor property line. And in Grace Mere, we adding another like 20 pines too, close to the property line, to do a bearing, and adding boulders like 4 feet away from the property line to make a bearing from the street to my backyard.
There's a question, are those boulders in the current location, is that where you intend to leave them?
Yeah, they are 4 feet away from the property line.
Because I drove by there, and I just want to tell you, I think you guys are doing an amazing job with your renovation, and just incredible what you're doing. I just was, just my own opinion is, the boulders in those locations takes away from everything you've done on the house.
Now-
It's kind of a little bit of a shock to see that, and I was just surprised to see that happened.
Like here, you see, we are leaving space between because we adding this pine. I don't wanna put a fence to close the view.
Or like some kind of guardrail would
Yeah.
not.
What I now, after I put the boulders, I'm adding all these trees in the middle.
Yeah.
This way they be closing the gaps to do like a bearing. Like,
Just again, I think the boulders are just not doing any improvement to the property. And there's the question of, is it a hazard for people who may be driving down that road in the winter and possibly, you know, striking a boulder. So did you talk to the building inspector about this, about the placement of the boulder?
Yeah, the boulders, they're my property line.
They're on your property?
Yeah,
and-
and I'm still like 3 to 4 feet away from the property line.
Yeah.
What my concerns, I put boulders because the boulders come from the
No,
property.
yeah.
I don't have to disposal, and it's the quickest way, and, you know, I spend a lot of money to fix that house.
No, I know.
And now I'm getting to a point, I wanna just get it done, I don't wanna be putting more walls, do this, do that, I wanna just, if I put the trees in the middle of the boulders now, they're gonna close, this is what I wanna, be safe from my backyard, I don't wanna see cars coming down the road, that happened already. Because if they getting too close to the edge, they slide, because it's, you know, they slide down. The boulders, it's, if somebody slides to my property, they're gonna hit the boulders. That's why.
Didn't you once ask the building inspector, the village engineer, about putting a wall up? That was your original plan. And I noticed you've done a lot of wall work down below. It seems to me that the most beautiful thing aesthetically, and probably the safest thing, is to have a small 2.5 foot, 3 foot stone wall along the property where its steepest slope is, where you're worried the most, and then have the trees as the backup. That would be the aesthetically and probably the safest, you know, in terms of looks. Those are very, very large and not very attractive boulders. So it looks like they're just thrown down there, even though they're separated. And I thought the building inspector, and you would have a discussion from our last meeting to now. You didn't have a discussion with him?
We did, actually.
We did.
He wanted them to be more uniform. When we first put them up.
Was this after the planning board meeting?
No, no,
The
this is,
session, or before?
this is, I talked to him on site. But with the money I spend on the whole house and fix the whole thing.
It cost you more than you thought.
Yeah, and now I'm making another wall, and he told me to build a wall 15 feet away from the property line, down in the sleep. If I'm down the sleep, you know, if I'm making the wall 3 feet down, what is gonna happen? The car's gonna go right through. That's why there is the safest way for me, and, you know, for my property to put the boulders, and now I gotta put trees in the middle, they're gonna look different.
It'll look better, no question about it, but it's still not as desirable as trying to match what you've already done, which is beautiful. No, I understand, I understand the situation, but I think we have to find a better solution than just those boulders. That's, I thought Dan was gonna talk to you about that after our meeting, but he's not here tonight, right?
No, it's not, and I think that they did not have that conversation that,
We thought they were gonna have.
that you thought you
Okay,
would
so
have.
go on with it, we'll talk about that later. What else do you want to?
That's it.
That's it. And the trees, what kind of trees are you putting up, and how big are
Putting
they?
pines, they are 10 foot.
And how many are there?
I
They're
think
gonna be
there's
like-
29 down at the lower end, and there's 9 up on the north end. That's
So on
based
the
on
road
cover
bed,
letter.
the road bed, there's 9, and in the separation between you and the other property, there's 20.
I think there's 9 up there.
Now they are what?
Okay, then your cover letter was incorrect.
One here, and they have all these ones here. This one's already in existence, but from here down.
I think they've doubled.
Now,
the
how many
cover letter.
new ones are you planting along that road?
I think it looks like 30.
Their cover letter said 9 at the top and 29
Yeah,
on the
30 here,
bottom.
20 there.
So you're planting all the same tree, the same species. So you get a disease and all your trees are dead. Why don't you do a diversity of species types, deciduous and evergreen, that is more naturalized into what is there and has been before, so that you'll always have some trees that are either foliated or making you said you didn't want a wall that was completely blocking. Well, this seems to me like it's gonna be a wall, an evergreen wall that's gonna block, and it's gonna be very unnatural there as you're either by your side or by the street side.
Now, the
And,
last,
and having a monoculture of trees like that it's not a good thing for you. It can cause you a real problem later.
Especially if they all get sick.
Yes.
We've sent that to Suzanne, and she hasn't responded yet with the review of the landscape plan, but that may be something that Joe talked about.
Well, it'll also go to the tree commission.
Yes, it will.
And we'll be waiting for their.
Right, and the tree commission most likely will not be happy with the monoculture in terms of the planting there because of that problem that was mentioned. We've had experience in cities, not necessarily in ours all the time, but in other places where a disease comes in, like an elm disease or whatever, wipes out all the trees, and suddenly you're left with no protection at all. So a variety is the best.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
But
I
Suzanne should
want
be
to
coming in.
raise another point. A year ago, when we approved this application, we were all excited about what was coming. It's been wonderful what you're doing on the home. I applaud that. We also said that there will not be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. I'm reading from the approval. And that was true until now. But I really, for the life of me, cannot see the rocks as you have put them in, or the idea that we have a row of pine trees on what used to be a secluded country lane with mature deciduous trees lining it. That's gone. You've kind of destroyed the character of the neighborhood, and I find that very disappointing. And I hope we can do something better than jagged rocks. I also hope we can do something that other than a row of pine trees there.
I think we have to have a conversation with Dan and see what he comes up with and make some suggestions that would make an improvement. And we have to wait for the landscape architect's advice.
And the
I
plan,
have a couple of other questions. Could you just tell me the size of the secondary building? Do you know that offhand, or is there a problem? Can you see that now?
What, the?
Yes. You know how big that is? Okay. I'll find out. I'll look at the drawings myself.
But
And
that is the.
do you know the size of the pool by chance?
pool
20
is
by 40? What is,
18. 18 by 40. 18 by 38.
it's in already, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
18 by
you
38.
didn't go swimming yet, did you?
they've gone ice skating though.
Okay, so are we continuing?
And the planning board has presented their comments to Dan.
Right.
So you should have a fruitful conversation with them.
Okay.
All right, I move that we continue the public hearing at the next,
I think there are people who want to talk.
We'll have to ask people to speak, right?
oh yes, anybody in the
Anyone
public?
wish to speak? Linda? Cite your name and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Linda Viertel. I live at 8 Gracemere and have been there for over 30 years. Many of the residents in Gracemere are so pleased that the Macy House is being restored by one developer. And what is left of it, we're very appreciative that it's there. I do want, and before I address the boulders, I do want assurance that there isn't a driveway that's coming out onto Gracemere Road. I don't see it on the plan, but there has been a tentative one that's been created for the large machinery. I just want to make sure that there won't be one, because it's too steep a slope. Okay. The boulders, I do know that the developer asked the village for a fence, and that was denied. Dan did send that denial to me. I guess my question is, do the boulders constitute a fence? They're already, by the way, some of them have already toppled over. They're not 3 to 4 feet from the road. They're a hazard. Many of us have been skirting around the trucks, and we've got tons of potholes. I've lost 2 tires during this process. And my car has also slid on black ice into what was Rula's house. She had a fence there, which I repaired. It's a hazard. Where is the snow going to be plowed? Into the boulders? There's no place for it to go. And frankly, the boulders, as they are there, constitute a fence. And they are, as David said, not in keeping at all with the aesthetic nature of Gracemere as it's existed over the past 120 years. The house and the renovations that you've done are lovely, and the walls that are within the property that are being created. I like Stan's idea of a lower wall. I don't know why we can't have trees there as a guard against or privacy element for the owners of the house, for the cars that are going along Gracemere Road. But the boulders have to go. And everybody in Gracemere agrees with that. So I guess it's up to the planning board and landscape architects. I don't know if there was an application for them to be put in. Right now, I'm glad they're not in cement because that would make it much harder for the developer to remove them. But do come and have a site visit and you'll see that they're falling over already. So you will get a lot of pushback from the residents if those boulders don't come down, and something else more in keeping with the nature of that delicate, beautiful estate area isn't put up instead. And that would be natural greenery, a wall further back, whatever you deem. That's not for me to say. There are beautiful stone walls on the property that you've created already. That would be a solution, but the boulders cannot stay.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Jacobs? No, you have to say it into the microphone, not mumble it to me. I know who you are.
Lester Jacobs, 47 Stephen Drive. I just wanted to ask one question and make one comment. This line here is all going to be trees over here on the original plan?
Your line? Yes.
Right here. Okay, good. Also, I understand the concern. I have a concern about that road also.
Talk into the mic, please. We can't hear you.
But I've lived there for 28 years, and the car has never gone up that road. So, just to let you know, not that it can't happen, and I understand the concern, but it's never happened.
That's because you haven't driven on it. You go the other ways, right? Thank you, Les. Okay, anyone else? Okay.
I move then that we continue the
No, I just wanted to say, just on Gracemere Road, my property's actually it's been paved over. So I understand it's a private road, but if you look at the survey and it's marked, it is on, I mean, it goes into the blacktop. So part of, it's hard to say whether or not, I mean, a car may or may not come down into the hill. There are quite, a lot of traffic going up and down Gracemere and through Emerald Woods, more than I actually expected, because people cut through there. So I just wanted to be safe and not have a guardrail up there, because I thought that would just look uglier than the boulders. So that's all my, anything?
Yeah. Now, I know the walls look great, but again, the walls, we already improved the house a lot. I would love to anybody else in the neighborhood improve the house like me, or like ours, a dream house. And that road, it's private. And that road becomes so much traffic, I can't believe, or people that like to go by, it's up and down all day long. And my concern is this: when I'm going to be in the pool, or my kids be in the pool, and come my car inside my pool, because nobody else has a pool in the deep, you know, it's right there, there's a road. And the cars, the most traffic now, I don't understand why people go so by there so many times. Maybe because they crossed 119 from there, so they have to go to the light and
Whatever.
But that's why we put the boulders, to make a safest way to natural. We can downsize,
Or make them
like all
uniform.
day, and make them a little bit down, because now they're like 6 feet, because I took them from the ground like that. I just put them with the machine. Then told me, oh, can you just bring them a little bit down, like no more than 4 feet or 3 feet? This way you can put the trees in. And I told him yes, but I don't have time, because I want to, before I do that, I want to, talk to everybody and see if we.
Yes, I would welcome a provision for safety there. It's not only today's traffic, which is a lot more than it was 28 years ago, but also that we have a new subdivision that one day may come, what's called Jardim East, which will bring a lot more traffic through there. So yes, we should have safety provisions.
Okay.
Okay, I move that we continue the public hearing at the next scheduled public hearing date.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a concept presentation, Tarrytown Marina LLC, 236 Green Street, Tarrytown Boat Club. A conceptual presentation of a project consisting of residences, hotel, and river suites with parking. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. Very pleased to be here, pleased to be back before your board. Appreciate the opportunity to conduct really a pre-submission informal discussion about something that we are all very excited about, and we hope you will be as well. We're here to talk about the Tarrytown Boat and Marina out on the waterfront, that parcel and the surrounding parcels, and a proposed redevelopment of that site, as well as talk a little bit about the SAO and its implications. Let me introduce my client group. We're all here this evening. Our client is Tarrytown Marina LLC. Some of you have already met some of this team. Tarrytown Marina LLC is a partnership, YZK Development Group. With me from YZK, Carlos Zapata. Carlos is an internationally acclaimed architect. It is truly a privilege for us to have Carlos as part of this group. Carlos is an award-winning architect who has done a wide variety of work throughout the world. Skyscrapers, Soldier Field in Chicago, airports, the National Convention Center in Hanoi, some really innovative mixed-use concept residential projects. And Carlos, along with his partner, Michael Yanko. Michael is a cutting-edge developer with a particular expertise in hospitality and hotels, who is also part of the YZK Development Group, along with Melissa, the managing partner of that entity. YZK has partnered with National Resources. You're all familiar with National Resources. And we have assembled a development team. Our development team also includes John Canning from Kimley Horn, who will be doing our engineering and traffic engineering, and has already done a fair amount of traffic analysis associated with the bridge, the train station, circulation, et cetera. And I think you're all familiar with my partner, Brad Schwartz, who's also going to be working on this as well. So we're all well aware, members of the board, that the SAO is before the village right now for study, public hearing, possibly adoption, hopefully adoption. And we're here tonight because we have a fairly well-developed concept that we're going to share with you. And we know that there's a public hearing next month, and we intend to be there at the public hearing and to support the adoption of the SAO. We think this project is precisely what the SAO is encouraging. But to better inform what we will say to the Board of Trustees and to better inform our team in terms of how to approach the SAO and to make appropriate comment, We wanted to share with you our concept, let you give us whatever feedback or ask whatever questions and raise any thoughts you may have. We think that'll better inform what we do next when we present to the board next month. Do we have the ability to just put up a slide with the the parcels?
Can I just make one clarification? When you say present before the board, you mean the Board of Trustees?
Yes, yes.
For rezoning. Okay, so the public hearing on the SAO
Is-
is zoning text amendments, just for the public's benefit.
Absolutely, Chrissy, I apologize if I...
No,
if I-
it's fine, just wanted to clarify that, and so the public hearing will be before the Board of Trustees.
That's right. The Board of Trustees had originally talked about having a public hearing on December 2nd, and my understanding it has now been adjourned or postponed to December 16th.
That's my understanding as well.
I'm not sure it
This is-
will go up until the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
Is
you
that-
for putting it up.
Liz, are you able to... Apologies. I will continue while we're trying to get the technical difficulties resolved.
Yeah. Disagree?
That's why I like the old-fashioned boards and pointers.
So where's your spreadsheet? Oh, there you go.
Okay, let's go to the parcels, if we can, if we just go to the parcels. So, we're gonna be talking to you tonight about 4 parcels. Essentially, I think you're all familiar with the parcel in the middle, which is the Boat Club property. My client is in contract, is a contract vendee, is in contract to purchase the Boat Club property. And our concept that we're going to be discussing with you, as well as the village in general, involves both the north property as well as the south property, upon which we're all familiar with the commuter parking lot on it. And the large area out in the Hudson is the boat slip area associated with a ground lease in connection with the Tarrytown Boat Club as well. The team sought to capture in this development, and I'm going to let Carlos unveil the full development. The team sought to capture the excitement of the new bridge, whether you want to call it the Tappan Zee Bridge, the Cuomo Bridge, the new bridge, and the open space, the views of the Hudson, the riverfront, and the Riverwalk experience in and around Tarrytown is really what this project is all about. The notion was to create a sustainable, publicly oriented waterfront development, a true intermodal project where we would have the ability to stimulate the interaction and the access for pedestrians, trains, cars, boats, bikes, walkers, runners, all in connection with a proposed mixed-use development on that property. The proposal, a hotel with a gym, spa, 2 restaurants, and amenities. You'll learn from Michael. We have had a tremendous interest from Radisson, and Michael will talk about Radisson's involvement or projected involvement. The hotel would be 168 keys with 132 rooms, 36 suites, and 18 river suites, which we'll describe. 52 residential units associated with the hotel, but they would be residences. We think we have more than adequate on-street parking, on-site parking, which John has helped us analyze how we can deal with that, as well as potentially relocate the existing commuter parking to the east side of the tracks. That is a component of what we would like to propose, is to propose a new parking area on the east side of the tracks immediately adjacent to Village Hall. The Marina or Boat Club would still, there would still be a marina and yacht club. There would be a kayak launch, public boat launch, and we'd still have the attributes of what we've had in the community, except fixed up, modernized, and brought into contemporary capabilities. Significant public open spaces in Riverfront Esplanade. One of the things that Carlos and our team have been trying to do is figure out how to redevelop this property and make it inviting to the public, allow the public to enjoy it for restaurants, for dining, as well as casual walking and recreation. The project, as I said, is something that can be done with the parking remaining where it is and built into the building, but we think it is a far more productive use of space. It is a far more efficient use of pedestrian and vehicular circulation to take the commuters who are currently driving across the H Bridge and going to the west side of the tracks and parking there to go across the ramp to get to the train station, to have them park here on the east side of the tracks. We're fully aware of the fact that that requires further study. When we met, you all should know that we did have a very brief meeting with some of the trustees and some of the planning board members and village staff, and we talked about this, and we got a number of questions about the fact that the village had never actually studied the implications of putting vehicles on the east side and how that would change the time from people parking their car to get to the station and change circulation patterns in and around the village. The most important thing is we think that the SAO creates, if it's adopted, creates an opportunity for redevelopment in and around the station area that's truly a TOD, a transportation-oriented district that would stimulate new types of development, something that would be interesting, something that would be productive, something that would be fiscally beneficial to the village. We believe that this project would generate easily between $700,000 and $1 million in real property tax revenue. That's an early projection. We're quite convinced that it would create a substantial number of both part-time and full-time jobs, in addition to a substantial amount of construction jobs as well. So what we wanted to do tonight is simply share some ideas and concepts. I think you'll be surprised how advanced the concepts actually are. Our client team and the design team has spent a tremendous amount of effort bringing this to a vision that I'm going to let, nobody explains it better than Carlos, so I'm going to let Carlos explain the vision. And we're hoping to have the opportunity, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, to work with the planning board, to work with the board of trustees, to work with your professional staff, and to advance this and to really create something special for the village of Tarrytown. So I'm going to turn it over to Carlos and let him walk us through the project.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Zapata. I'm representing YZK as a development company that is extremely interested in this site. I don't want to repeat what David said. You've had enough of it. I just want to jump immediately to what we think is the most interesting part of this proposal we're going to show you. And I think the most interesting and the more powerful part of it is that it will give the opportunity to residents to come towards the water and join the river walk continuously around the river. That's what we want to do. The question is why? It's because we're proposing a hotel. And for a hotel that has restaurants and spa and amenities, you need public. It's really that simple. So we are interested in creating a public gathering space in front of the river. I cannot be more direct than that. Now, during the previous meeting, I was asked if I had reviewed Tarrytown Connected and the station area overlay. At the time, I had not. But I was very pleasantly surprised about the depth of the study and how it actually relates to what we're going to show you. So as David said, yes, we are going to support that. I hope it gets adopted. We would very much like to see the town move in that direction. We'd very much like to see a sustainable approach. I reviewed it. I think it's good. I think we can do better. And I really hope that we can work together to make this an example of sustainability in Tarrytown. Nothing would make us happier than that. So thank you for telling me to review it before coming here. That's actually, it was necessary to do that. So I would like to go back. Let me go this way. The program was already described, so I don't want to dwell into it. But it's basically residences and a hotel. And of course, the parking that is needed for the hotel and the residences. Now, the parking, when we presented before, and it's still here, we wanted to understand how much parking we could accommodate on site if we were required to do that. We hope we are not required to keep the commuter parking. We want to contribute to moving it to the other side of the tracks. That's something we cannot argue. We will support that idea. I think it's a great idea because we will actually relieve a lot of trips across the H Bridge. I've gone through the H Bridge, I've seen the conditions, we really need to keep the cars on the other side, the commuter cars. So we really hope that is something that we can contribute to. Second, if you read through the code and you start to pick what cars are needed for the use, there are a lot of cars, but nobody's taking into consideration, the fact that there is a train station there and the fact that we could use shared parking techniques to reduce the demand. There is mention on Tarrytown Connected, but I could not find what are the formulas that we could rely on. And we have done projects in other cities which rely on the same, I don't want to call them tactics, the same guidelines. We would love to discuss how much to, take in consideration from the fact that there is a train station, a commuter station, and that there is shared parking possibilities between the residences and the hotel. So once we do that in close collaboration with this group, we would like to get to a number, reduce it, and make changes to our project. One of the changes that was mentioned in our previous meeting was that, and I'm going to start showing you this project now. I'm going to jump a little bit and then I can come back. We've gone through, let me just go into here. Yeah, the fact that, our building as proposed, as is right now, if you can see the south parking lot, it has a garage structure and it has a hotel wrap around it, so that basically you do not see cars from the river. At this moment, you can see cars from the station. We can work on that. But one immediate comment was that we're too close to the park, to Lizzie Park, and we agree with that. And is there a way to give a bigger buffer or a larger buffer between our project and the park? And the answer is absolutely yes, especially if we can take a look at the parking requirements, be able to condense the parking structure, shrink it, and then be able to move the building so that we can have a larger buffer, and also actually another pedestrian access towards this, towards the Riverwalk. I think that this is beautifully positioned to take advantage of the fact that there is a train station with overpasses on it that will allow people to cross the tracks and be at the front step of our project and be received by a hotel and be received by a pedestrian access towards the river. That is that arrow that I have in between the two parcels ending up on this little bubble that simply means this is a public space. This is an arrival point for residents and visitors to come to Tarrytown. And I think that having a gathering space with restaurants and with spa and bars and just simple open space, receiving visitors and receiving the residents into the river, I think is a plus for the town. I think that we have discussed this at length, and we believe that it fits within the Tarrytown Connected vision. And in fact, in reading it, one of the strategies of the study was to actually create a destination, right? This is one of your three strategies. One was a park, there was a neighborhood, then there was a destination concept. We feel that we fit into the destination concept. The uses of your destination concept included residences, included parking, and included a boutique hotel. Now, it makes a very, very strong case towards sustainability, which we agree with. And we have approached and really started to negotiate with Radisson Blu, which has a very, very strong sustainable approach. So we want Michael, you can go a little bit further on this one, but we wanted to pair this with a very sustainably responsible hotelier so that we can merge these two concerns and make it as fitting within Tarrytown as we can and with the vision of Tarrytown. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? Yeah. I can come back if I don't know how much more to give you about the program. If you ask me, I'll be more than happy to go through this.
Why don't you run through what you had and then get some.
Give me a second.
Okay. program, residences, hotel, river suites, and a parking structure.
Could you just go over the numbers again?
Yes, absolutely.
How many rooms, how many residences? How large are they? Anything, any ideas?
Yes. We are proposing at the time, we are going through the exercise of working with you and arriving to a final concept. 52 residential units. This is actually divided into two building sites, which I will explain. One of the buildings will have residences, will have a restaurant and amenities. Then on the other side of the public access, as I explained, we will have another structure which will have a hotel with 132 guest rooms and 36 suites, and the parking structure. Separately from that, on the marina, we would like to see what we call river suites, which are sustainable, a very sustainable approach to a, how can I call it? Will it be a river pod or a boathouse, which is elevated in the air, and it actually is attached to the marina, and is intended to bring visitors through the water and be housed on the marina. I will show a little bit of that. This is one of the first images we created, which explains the two building approach. One crossing onto a part of the north parcel, which is not used by the tennis courts. Is a little bit of a leftover in between the tennis courts and the edge of the parcel. We have incorporated that. And then a second structure, which is partly on the marina side or lot, and partly on the south parcel, which is city property. You can see here how the two structures and the marina are relating to each other. And you can have a hint of what we're proposing in terms of the river suites, which are basically river suites on a point, on a single structure, which brings in and out the needed infrastructure. They also have wind energy into it and solar, and they go up and down with the tide if necessary. In this case, I don't think it's necessary. The tide does not really go up as much. Another structure from the east side. And again, the properties. You can see the boat club property in the middle, a partial or part of the north property, which we're trying to incorporate, and the south property. That's where the project is located. And of course, the Tarrytown boat. We start to see the existence of a scenic Hudson River walk, but it has no continuity. It hasn't been developed. We're proposing to put a river walk into the property to link them, to extend the existing river walk. Our hope is that there will be a pedestrian, circulation in front of the river at all times. We can couple that with how to approach the river walk and how to approach the water. So the combination of the two, the linear river walk and the access from the other side of the town, comes in just the way it should be. People need to go to the water. The result's going to be a continuous river walk. This is what we all want. There are some existing river walk projects, some which are being completed, and this one will actually link north and south into the project with access directly from the town of Tarrytown. Now, there are setbacks, and we are, of course, going to follow them. We found out that the shoreline setback is actually 50 feet, so we're going to make that change. And we're going to continue to make other changes by reviewing and working with you. As I mentioned before, there are two sites, Site 1 and Site 2. Site 1 is on the marina side towards the north. Then we have the pedestrian access in the middle, and then we have the combination of the southern part of the marina side and the south lot. When we put it all together, we have residences on the northern portion, and we have a hotel and parking structure on the southern portion, as you can see in the image. Now you can also see what's represented with green as public space. There's a wealth of public space around this project. The residences, as I said before, they include a restaurant, which is going to relate to the public space and to the river walk. One restaurant in this building, one restaurant on the next building. So we want to propose 2 restaurants in the project. This is the ground floor, has its own service load, has its lobby, has its restaurant, and then the typical floor plan, which is residences lining the project's edge. Then we have a rooftop. When we move to the other structure, what I was telling you is this line here, the red line that crosses right through the project, that's the division or the property line in between the marina site and the southern property. So we want to combine the two in whichever way we can work out. We want to combine the two to propose a single structure which wraps around the parking structure. This is the typical floor plan. Has 2 elevator cores, 2 entrances, and it wraps around the garage area. Rooftop. And these are the suites. The suites are intended or proposed to be built within the marina piles. We're going to renovate the marina. As we renovate the marina, we would propose to insert piles that would support these units on top. The units come down and up so that there is access, handicap access as well, to the structures. We can go more into this if you wish. In terms of sections, we have reviewed the height, the difference of height between the west side of the tracks and the east side of the tracks. We understand there's a little bit more height on the east, and we have a limit of 60 feet on the west. We would like to work with you to incorporate the requirements of, retail such as restaurants, plus the requirements of the residences in terms of height and so on. We think we can come within 62 feet, but we're willing to, of course, work with you to see how to squeeze the height if that's an absolute. We would like that flexibility because of the actual needs of the different types of uses. I have a lot of appendixes which deal with the code. I would prefer not to go through that right now. I would like to answer any questions if you have them, and I can go back to the material and focus on it.
Carlos, one of the questions the chair asked was how large the residential units were?
The residential units, if I remember correctly, are about
Approximately?
1,300. Let me see. Yeah. We have different sizes, 900, 1,000, and 1,300, roughly.
And a typical hotel room, approximately?
350 to 450.
How much?
350 square feet.
250?
350.
The suites are larger, of course. They are basically 2 keys combined.
That's smaller than a standard hotel size now.
Depends. But we have suites which are about 600. So we're working with the hotel operator, and we will continue to do that and of course, work with you.
Michael's going to cover those.
Michael can go through that. As you know, in development, you just have to work with who's going to operate it. And they're going to tell us what they think is their best size for the keys, how many and what kind of square footage on the restaurants, et cetera, what kind of services, et cetera. So. Yes.
I have a question. What is the purpose of the pods? Are they is it living space or what is it?
They're suites for the hotel.
They are suites, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they're hotel suites. Loading houseboats, right.
There's houseboats,
All right.
for a hotel.
I've never seen that concept actually, but you know, I imagine it's attached to many marinas or hotels or
The
new.
technology is proven technology. We can have a separate meeting on that,
Uh-huh.
you know, if you're interested. We believe that there is a real need to attract traffic from the water.
Okay,
We think that the river is not used enough. I happen to love the river. I think that coming from the city or from that river onto Tarrytown would be an incredible pleasure. I think it is. I love boats. So going and approaching this project through the water would be an incredible experience. And we want to provide an incentive for them to come. People who love boats, they love the water, and they want to be really near the water. This is what we're doing it. So we're taking the concept of a hotel and mixing it with the needs of the river. So we
Okay.
have river suites. That's how we arrived to it. Of course, we have regular suites and regular rooms. But Michael can explain a little bit more about the hotel. And please ask me about sustainability. I would love to get into this.
You should just talk about it.
After he finishes, I'll go into one of my appendixes and you'll see.
Hi, everybody. Michael Yanko, part owner of YZK. We all agree that Tarrytown, first of all, because it's on the river, so we owe, as Carlos said, we owe it to the residents to have the ability to come down to the river. But we also owe it to ourselves to, one, and that's how it started with me personally, preserve the boat club, the Tarrytown Boat Club, and reinstate the marina and bring it back to its glory, how it used to be when it was fully 180 slot marina, with bigger boats and a lot of happening were done there. I even remember from Nyack taking a kayak 20 years ago, coming to enjoy the marina as it diminishes year by year. So we owe it to ourselves to actually preserve this marina and not lose it. Another point that attracted me personally to Tarrytown is the fact that there's going to be a point lookout with telescopes, these telescopes that you put 25 cents in on the north side of the bridge, which is going to be a walkway. And all eyes are going to be on Tarrytown. This is the first town that you see. And that's how also we came about the technology from Tel Aviv, from Israel, with the river boats, with the river suites. The river suites are going to be, first of all, green, full force sustainability. As Carlos said, up and down by the tide, rotating by the sun. And we're going to use it, to answer more your question, as river suites of the hotel. And also one or two of them are going to become these conference rooms or a cool little party room where the C of O permits the use. The sizes of these suites are going to be between 500 square feet to 1,000 square feet. And they're going to be great suites where people will come with the boats and either they sleep in the boats or if they want to be inland or have a surface behind, under the feet for the night, they can do so. Of course, anybody else can enjoy it, and people can come even from New York City on the train and just make a left and come in and walk in without a car and without any other mode of transportation, or coming from the river, of course. The river suites, believe it or not, that's what attracted the giant conglomerate Radisson coming out of Europe. They're very aggressive getting into the New York and the United States market. They know me very well from other projects. And we started talking about the idea that Radisson will manage and put their name on this hotel. After their visit here, they liked it very much, and we said we're going to do Radisson Blu. Last week I got a call from headquarters who is asking us if we will be amenable to actually elevate the level of this hotel. They love it. They love the suites, the river suites. They think it's cutting edge. They love the idea of the bridge, the marina, Tarrytown, the whole 9 yards, the demographics of Tarrytown. And they would like to do it as Radisson Collection, which is a big deal. Should be a big deal for all of us here in Tarrytown and basically all the residents and even people from New York City. We're gonna have amazing F&Bs, obviously. Not yet in liberty to indulge on who are gonna be the chefs or what have you, but we're gonna have a great F&B program that will complement Radisson, food and beverage program, sorry, that will complement Radisson's hotel management. If I can answer any other question.
So how did you determine the number of rooms? But Radisson determined it?
Radisson determined it. They want us to stay in the 150s, in the mid-100s.
But it's an upscale hotel.
It's an upscale hotel. Around 4 stars, 4.5 stars.
You like it?
I like it.
A lot?
A lot.
Better than before?
Number 4 is the best.
Both, all right. And members of the board, any questions you have?
I'm just going to say one thing. I just want to make it clear to the public that the two properties that are north and south of the Boat Club properties, you do not own.
Correct.
Correct. So that is, you're assuming something there.
Yes, we are proposing, we didn't get to it yet, but we are proposing to somehow transact with Tarrytown to get these two properties, either lease them or purchase them, and in return to pay or to build for you the proposed parking structure on the other side, close to this building.
Anybody from the public want to speak?
Sure.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Dean Galley. I'm co-chair of the Tarrytown Environmental Advisory Council. I live on Willie Street. I'd just like to, it looks to me like this project is going to completely take over the area that's now used for boat storage at Tarrytown Marina. And I just wanted to find out what the developer thinks about where people are going to store their boats for the winter. Because if you have 100 and something boats there, there isn't space in the marinas within the reasonable area, boating area of Tarrytown for storing that many boats, as far as I know. I used to be a sailor on the Hudson River, and I stored my boat at Washington Irving Boat Club, and they're pretty full right now. But I'd like to know what the plan is for that. And also, the other thing I want to ask about, these river suites are going to be like rotating pods or something that are going to be on a post and they're going to rotate with the sun or something. That's what it seemed like. How are the utilities, especially the sewer lines, which are going to be running from each of these to some central point, how are those going to be made secure and long-lasting so that we're not going to have leakage into the Hudson River of things we don't want in there?
Okay.
I'm just going to make a brief non-comment tonight because I'm impressed by the presentation. I haven't read through it in detail yet, but I'm not going to comment on the proposal tonight because I think we need to wait till the planning board has considered and approved, the Board of Trustees has considered and approved, first of all, the specific zoning for the station area. but also has made its initial response to the proposed plan in light of that approved zoning. Then I believe the planning board will be in a position to begin its review of the proposal at a public hearing. By the time this comes before the planning board, the proposal may have changed, perhaps significantly, so it would be premature for me, I think, or anyone else to make comments at this time. And I think the public should realize that this is a very initial stage, and therefore, dealing with details at this point would probably not be advisable.
Before anyone else, is anyone from the audience wish to speak? There's a number of people here that have not been here before, and I assume you want to speak.
I would like to say something.
Hi, my name's Lou Monaco. I'm the current Commodore of the Tarrytown Boat and Yacht Club. We are excited about this. It keeps our club active and ongoing, over 110 years old. And we think if something like this could happen, it would be fantastic for the riverfront and for our boat club. So from my point of view, I hope something like this can happen. I can continue boating on the river and enjoy all the amenities. So I've watched the boat club decline over the years. I watched that area of the riverfront just decay, and I'm hopefully looking forward to Tarrytown letting it be developed into something that's spectacular. That's all I want to say.
I have a question to ask you. Sir.
Not gonna get away that easy.
I charge $600 an hour. Go ahead.
Perfectly fine. I'm bankrupt and I can't afford it. What's the status of the contract? You have a contract?
We have a contract, and we're hoping to close December 17th. That's the drop dead date.
And currently, the boat club needs a lot of work. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Including dredging, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I assume the applicant is going to take care of some of those things, or we haven't heard anything about that?
The applicant has, they're contracted to provide a certain number of slips. It is not contracted to, they don't have to dredge. But if they want a viable marina there, they're gonna have to dredge and rebuild the seawall.
The reason I ask this question is that in most of our discussions, when we have applications, we always ask, what's the public benefit? And that's a very important thing to us, especially if we're dealing with sort of uncertainties about density and other environmental conditions. We want to know what's good for the village and what the village will get out of this project, other than taxes, but not to minimize taxes, but other than that, what else? What other public benefits?
I think the marina would come alive again.
No, I understand, but one of the benefits might be, and this is why I asked you this question, is what's going to happen to the quality of that boat club and the physical structure of that boat club and the accessibility of boats to get in and out if you don't have an access way that's dredged properly. Those are important public benefits to people who are boaters. And so that's why I wanted to know what your opinion is.
They'll handle that. And if they want boats there, right now, we could accommodate boats up to 30, 35 feet. If you want the bigger boats, you're gonna have to dredge. Otherwise, I've never had a problem getting my boat in and out of there. So I would think they would want to dredge. The last time it was dredged was 1988. So I would imagine dredging's in its future, as well as rebuilding the seawall, which is very important.
Okay. Well,
Any other questions? You got another 33 minutes with me before you have to pay me.
I just have a question.
go up there and let's do it right. We're on TV, so.
Maybe I missed something, but I have a question about the parking.
Could you state your name and?
My name is Alan Bednowitz. I'm a resident of Hudson Harbor 1. And obviously, what's being built will be in view from where I live. But that's not my concern with regard to the question of where the proposal to move the parking lot is. On the east side of the train, where and how many? Because I see that is a fully used parking lot right now, every day. And these must be used by residents of Tarrytown. So this suggestion is moving them to the east side, but I see coming up from the north, an additional 1,000 cars from Sleepy Hollow looking to get on that train, people. Maybe 1,000 cars, maybe not 1,000 cars, but it could be. There's 1,100 units there. So my question is, where's the parking gonna go? And how is it gonna be constructed? And how many units can it hold?
I share those sentiments. We'll have to find the answer to those
So, Mr.
questions.
Chairman, just to answer that very briefly, if I could.
Sure.
By no means have final plans or designs been arrived at with regard to this parking structure. As was said earlier, we don't control the property, it's the village's property. The concept would be to construct a parking structure that would accommodate at least 170 vehicles. That's the number of vehicles that currently park on the south lot on the west side of the tracks. Our concept would be to see that parking structure erected with some kind of ground floor cafe, some kind of rooftop amenity that people could enjoy. So again, it has not been designed, and it cannot be designed until the village expresses interest in engaging in that kind of process. The other thing, I want to go back one speaker, Mr. Chairman, to your question about benefits. You hit it right on the head. Obviously, the marina has to be functional. By no means at this point have we done any kind of extensive sub-waterline analysis of what type of work, dredging or otherwise, would need to be done. Obviously, in order to have a state-of-the-art, productive, economically viable marina that would, as Carlos eloquently said, attract folks from the river to Tarrytown as well as folks from Tarrytown to the river, it's got to function well. So we know we'd have to study that. That has not been done. In addition, in terms of overall benefits to the village, it's not just taxes. It's opening up this particular area for something a little bit more exciting and productive than commuter parking. Right now, it's essentially a commuter parking lot and a decaying boat club. So the idea is to make it a wonderful destination, an area, and the thing about a hotel as opposed to a pure residential project, if it's a hotel, anybody can walk into the hotel any time of day when it's open and go and enjoy the rooftop and have something to eat, have a drink, and then get out to a view of the river. As Carlos said, there would be a riverfront walkway, an esplanade along that area that doesn't exist now. So those are just some of the amenities that we think this project brings to the village, and we're quite convinced that the trustees, your board, and your professional staff will obviously have us all think that through extensively and come up with something, if this project gets traction, that works to the benefit not only of the developer, but of the community and the village itself. And it was stated earlier, the north and south lot, we're quite well aware we don't own or control those lots. We're also well aware, as a contract vendee of the tooth in the middle of the mouth, we're probably the most likely to be able to make effective beneficial use of the south and north lot. And we think if we can come up with a concept that benefits the village and makes this project viable, there is a way to achieve a fair deal with the village. We know we would have to work through that with the trustees. We explained this to the mayor and those trustees who met with us, and all it is right now is a concept. So obviously it's a concept that these folks think so highly of and were so willing to explore that they've invested quite a bit of time, money, and energy just to get it to this point. And all they have right now is a commitment to pay Lou Monaco and his boat club fair market value for their boat club. So that's going to be done regardless because there's a contract that's been signed. We hope we have the chance to work with the village to turn this into something better and bigger than just the boat club site. We're happy to answer questions, and Mr. Tedesco, I appreciate your comments about not wanting to prejudge anything. We get it. I understand why you would say that. If board members have thoughts or comments or questions, as I said at the outset, to me, I know that Brad and I and the rest of our team are probably going to have to stand up next month in front of your trustees. You've already heard Carlos. Carlos is going to be one of the biggest fans of the SAO. when we get up at that public hearing, we want to be as smart and as insightful about the village and its goals as we can be. So that's why we're here. I thought it would be inappropriate to go to the trustees' public hearing, and we've already met with some of you, and not share this with the entire planning board. I thought it would be it was wonderful that we had 2 of your planning board members a month ago or 5 weeks ago, and we really appreciate the chance to speak to all of you, and we're delighted that the public is here listening as well. This is truly, definitionally, a public-private partnership. If this happens, it can only happen with the village putting its property in play, the developer putting its property in play, and the SAO, and a true overlay zone sitting on top of all of it to bring this home and make it happen.
You know, you may want to just explain the SAO to the public that may not be very familiar with it.
I just wanted to thank you for the informational presentation. It was enjoyable. And I think we all agree that if we could make this area in that part of the town a benefit to the public, to the water-loving people, that the goal is a wonderful goal. And I hope that progress can be made in that direction.
We know we agree on that, so that's a good start.
There's one other question I have, because you mentioned it at the very outset. When you developed this plan, you didn't have the benefit or knowledge of the SAO. And now you've mentioned several times the SAO is interesting, maybe beneficial.
Yes.
How did it change your project concept after you've read the SAO?
So the interesting thing, do you want to handle that?
Or is it still a work in progress?
It is a work in progress, and the interesting thing is I think the SAO essentially fulfilled the goals that we were already analyzing and designing to. Quite frankly, we would have come forward with a proposed zone for the waterfront if you didn't have an SAO. You know, as you know, Mr. Chairman, that's what we do on a lot of projects. If a municipality doesn't have the zoning in place, but there's a vision and a concept, we'll draft and we'll propose legislation to the municipality. In this case, simultaneously, while you were working on Connect Tarrytown, you ended up with this very innovative concept for zoning, and it marries quite magnificently to what Carlos and YZK's vision was. Carlos, you want to add anything?
Yeah, it's a work in progress. We don't think we are there yet. But I was very pleasantly surprised with how the proposal walks along with the overlay. So is this project going to change once we meet and work together? Absolutely, it's going to change. Is it going to improve? I believe so. It is a concept, needs to go through a working relationship, and we want to improve it. So yes, we're going to propose that the overlay gets implemented. That's step one. Once we have the overlay and once we have a framework in place, we can work with it. Right now, we don't know what to work with. So that's our issue. As I told you, we would love to analyze the parking situation and propose a reduction in parking. Why? Because it's just logical. We do it in many other projects. We're working on a project in the Miami River right now, utilizing concepts from shared parking and reduction of parking within a radius of public transportation. I think this is necessary. You already identified it. I'm not giving you anything new. I just don't see the numbers. Once we see the numbers, we will apply them and we will negotiate how we're going to reduce this parking structure. We're not fond of huge parking structures. It's just the only way to put parking in that site. But we have to complement that, as the gentleman said. Where are you going to put the commuter parking? We should put it where it's logical, where they should be before they cross the H bridge. Crossing the H bridge is a problem. That's what we think. For commuters, I mean. So if the commuters are coming from the other side of the tracks, why make them cross the tracks? So we are in agreement with that. Now, how is it going to change the project? Is this the comparison? I'll just give you a brief thing because we haven't come to any conclusions. But if we start to look at what we presented before, I explained about the the shoreline setback, we're now considering increasing it from 30 to 50 feet. This is just a very simple reaction because that's what's being contemplated. It will interrupt part of the northern structure, so there will be some change in between the dimension of this setback, but we want to respect it. Up to the ground floor, we want to increase it. So site 1 and site 2 will be modified to respect that. Now, what are we thinking right now in terms of the reduction of the parking structure? Well, I think you can see how the parking structure is being shrunk, and that gives us a bigger buffer, you know, on the side of the park, on the south side. And we actually want to increase the pedestrian crossover, to put one more crossover through the project. I think that would be beneficial. So you see here how this has changed, right? So now we're proposing another pedestrian crossover where folks can actually go through it, get into the elevators and go into the garage. So it's just, this is where we're at. This is not finished, but this is where we're at right now. So we're saying, you know, if you're on the waterfront, you have parked your car here, you can just go through the project, get onto the elevators and go into it. So we don't have to be causing awkward circulation around the project. You can see it's shrinking, right? And then we studied the height, I already talked about that and the numbers. So we have started to take a look in a very serious way about what happens when we start to work with you implementing the new overlay. But that's where we're at, okay?
Okay.
If you have another question, you asked me to go into sustainability.
The gentleman had his hand up. Did you want to speak? Come on up.
Howard Smith, about 87 Main Street. Two questions, both I think for the architect. I'm curious, at first glance, maybe to the untutored eye, the structure that's depicted in the rendering seems to be not particularly consistent with the architectural character of the village in general. So I'm curious about sort of what inspired the aesthetic and what argument might be made that it sort of fits in any way with the village as it exists now. My second question has to do with whether the viability of the project is dependent on a structure that's 60 feet tall, which is apparently not the height of the existing zoning, right? It would only be if the SAO is approved, as I understand it.
May I answer that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll show you what we're studying in terms of the character of the buildings. There is a real clear line demarcating the east and the western side of the overlay. It's a track. It's just a very interesting barrier which we need to understand how to cross. But historically, there is a character. I'm sorry that this is actually on the side. I just want to tell you how we're studying, not give you a conclusion. But we're taking the time now to understand the difference of character between the two sides of the track. I agree with you on the east side. I think we can identify a clear set of styles which are characteristic in the town. I think it's a beautiful town. I walked it, I've driven through it, I've gone into Main Street. I think I actually congratulate the town of Tarrytown. It's a beautiful town. When you cross to the west and we actually start to go through the different towns so that we don't isolate it into Tarrytown, we start to see more of a marine kind of vocabulary, bigger structures, more of an industrial character. And I think that's actually interesting because the water's edge has its own character. So as we think we should respect the character of and be inspired by the architecture of the east side of the tracks, I think we should do the same with the west side of the tracks. Now, the distinguishing factor, I believe, should be quality, not architectural style. So I challenge you, don't impose a particular style on a building that needs to function differently from what it's intended to do. Make sure it's of quality. That's a better position. So we say, yes, recognize the fact that if you are intervening in Main Street, you're not gonna build a, very, very different style. It should be within the time frame of the development of the town, but also accepting evolution of thinking and style. Now, if you're on the west side, don't impose an architectural style that doesn't belong on the west side, because it's not there. But, as I continue to say, it should be of quality. It should be a quality development, and should be sustainable, and should be respectful. If we agree on that, I think we have a direction. Now, there is a precedent for the west side now, the new bridge. It's quite a beautiful bridge. It's a modern interpretation. It does not look like the Brooklyn Bridge, if you notice it. But why? Because the Brooklyn Bridge cannot take that kind of amount of traffic, and it would be completely inefficient for that length of the river. So you cannot impose a style on the bridge. And that's what happened. The natural evolution of that bridge became what it is, based on how it's used, new technology, and what it's supposed to do, which is move a lot of cars up and down or from east to west on the river. So I invite you to actually think of quality, not of style. Then I think we have a great way of collaborating here. So just to let you know what we're doing, we're identifying every single building in the overlay on the north and in the south. And we're taking a look at what it is and what it does and how it works. So I'm just showing it to you. I'm not trying to, we haven't reached any conclusions. But you can see that we're mapping the area. Now we need to talk about sustainability. There is a moratorium on gas. So we're not gonna, on
Gas.
gas.
So you said rats.
Not rats, rats too, but gas. So we are not gonna be able to use it, let's be frank, right? So we need to find an alternative. So we think geothermal energy it's the most natural way of going here. We have a river, we can use it or not use it. We have ground, we can, take the temperature from the ground and use it with heat pumps, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just gonna go through this. We have not really taken any decisions. We have consulted local engineers and we have consulted our own engineers from abroad where there is more, more experience dealing with geothermal. For some reason or another, in this country and in this area, there is always a kind of a conflict with using geothermal because it's more expensive. Now, there are some incentives by the government that bring the price closer, but still easier to just use gas. So in this case, we cannot. Maybe it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. So basically, ground source heat pumps. That's something that we can do by drilling into the ground, taking the heat from the ground, and using heat pumps to generate heating, for instance, or even air conditioning. That's just one simple way of doing it. There is a cost to it, right? We can either do it going deep into the ground, which would mean going into the onto groundwater, or we can lay it horizontally. It works still that way. So we need to study the conditions on the ground. We cannot just take an informed decision. Evaporating cooling. Once you do that, it produces hot water. So what do you do with that hot water? Well, you can use it, when you need hot water, or you can simply use it in water fountains and let it evaporate. It has actually the ability to bring down the temperature of the overall surrounding, and it makes the water, or brings the water down in temperature again to let it go into the ground, or let it go into the river if we choose to do that. We choose to or not, we don't know. It's really going to be up to all of us. I don't know if I want to go through this with you. It's a little, but we can have cisterns. We really need cisterns into this project to trap water that is in the roofs. We cannot just let it go out. So we would like to capture the water, use it in cisterns, use it for gray water, not for gray water, for its adequate uses, for irrigation, etc. But trapping the water is a very good, sustainable way. But we can also use that water with its own temperature, which is going to be lower, to create the same exchange, heat exchange. So that's another possibility. If can see basically what's happening. We take the water, we filter it, we bring it to a cistern, then we make it recirculate, and we use heat pumps to provide either heating or air conditioning. River water cool and evaporate cool system. This simply means that we could, and this is, please don't get afraid about this. This has been done before, but with the responsible final step of dumping hot water into the river. We're not proposing that, but we could take water from the river or from the land, use it for heat exchange, then evaporate it, let the water cool down in temperature, and then bring it back to the river in a responsible way, same temperature as the river. It doesn't affect anything. If you choose not to go in that direction, we explore something else. So there is a diagram here where we're actually circulating water within the river. We're not taking water from the river. We actually put water in coils in the river to have the water of the river cool down the recirculating water so that we can use it with heat pumps. That's another possibility. This is basically a picture of what that is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are excited, we want to do it, and we want to work with you. I cannot be more direct than that. So, sure.
Linda?
Linda Viertel, again, from Grace Fair, and one of the founders of the Riverwalk, by the way. So I've been along this route for many years. My question is, when do the environmental protectors of the Hudson River and come into this process? There's a lot of talk about piers. We went through piers on the Riverwalk. Thermonuclear, taking the water in from the river and out, littoral issues, marine issues. It may be too soon. I'm not saying that it should happen tomorrow, but those who know the science of the river and the marine science, I think need to be in, and I shall not name names, but I think someone should be in, an organization should be in on the process, and fairly soon, because otherwise you're going to go down a road, whether it has to do with your energy systems or building out into the river or the piers. Casually, it was mentioned a kayak launch. Forget that. You can't have a kayak launch right in the same area as a marina. Plus, we have a kayak launch on the other side of Lewis Park. So before you spend time and money, I think there needs to be a kind of meta participation with those who know the Hudson River issues and the science and the rules and regs and the policies in our immediate Hudson River Valley.
Can I respond
So
to that?
the question, that was a long explanation with the question.
So,
Is there,
Linda,
is there
Linda.
someone who's, okay, great, thanks.
If I could just respond to
Kristen,
that.
please.
Linda,
Linda?
I'd want to respond to you.
Okay.
So if, there are so many ifs about this to begin with. The property, so many things, and that's really the purview of the Board of Trustees. But if it goes through all the hoops, it will have to go through the complete SECR process. And in that process, every interested party that has a stake in either the river or the river walk or the shoreline or whatever is going to be apprised of what's going on and be able to comment and make suggestions or protests or whatever. So this is not something that's going to be taken lightly here. Anything that's developed on the river will be minutely scrutinized, I think, because it's our resource that we don't want to mess up.
Sure. Yes. It's the exercise.
Very much. Good job.
I've been through many SECR processes, and I realize that will be the outcome. But I also understand that SECR is a pushback and can be gamed in all kinds of ways. And I'm actually just introducing the concept that in the process, not right now necessarily, and I think, sir, you were going to address this, there should be some expertise on the very issues that involve the Hudson River, since this is clearly right at the river's edge, in the river, out in the river. We're talking about dredging, not dredging. Those are all very specific details, and obviously you're not getting into them. But I would actually, as a resident and someone who's gone through a number of these kinds of studies and developments and so on, appreciate having that kind of expertise before, rather than just saying, oh, well, it'll get taken care of in the seeker. I've heard that a gazillion times before. And it will be, and there'll be people like me standing here and pushing back. But I'm just suggesting that when you have some of these ideas, that there is somebody in the room who can help advise. Before you're paying the money, you're throwing out the plans, the planning board is talking about it, the trustees don't know about any of these issues, frankly, in terms of the environmental impacts. So not that you have to get it right away, but that you're saving yourself time and money in the end, and a lot of angst and service on the part of the residents.
I agree, that's sage advice. Some of the best advice we've ever offered, but it's really for them, and it's really for them, and not, I appreciate it, but I think you really gave the advice to the applicant, because it's spending, as you said, a lot of time, money, and effort when they should line the ducks up before they go in the water. And that would save them a lot of it. So Army Corps of Engineer and the Riverkeeper and all these other groups that have been around for ages and fighting for a better Hudson River and a better quality of the water should be involved. And the earlier you can get them to understand and support an idea, the better off everybody is. I agree. Yeah, yeah. Right, yes, absolutely.
In 2 or 3 sentences or less, I agree with the secret explanation, I agree with the chair, and I think the question was in terms of experts. Obviously, our team, this is not any of our first project. This is not even my first Hudson River waterfront project in Westchester County, so quite mindful of it. None of us are going to game the system, I can assure you of that. We fully intend to retain the necessary tidal wetlands, marine, bulkhead, and all appropriate experts and consultants. But we're not going to do that until we know we actually have a project. It's amazing what YZK has chosen to do at this point with a project that is really not even in its infancy. So we get it. We will be there. We hope to be able to share that empirical data with the village.
I would just mention that I work with Scenic Hudson on resiliency in a number of other communities. And obviously, I'm well aware of what you're saying. And as you go forward, it may be a resource that you might want to use in terms of their experiences in Kingston and Catskill and a number of other, Piermont.
Absolutely.
A number of other areas, because we're also big concerned with resiliency, sea level rise, which the state's going to be. When you're going through CEQA, it's not the same old CEQA anymore, okay? The state's very serious about SLR, and I know I've worked with New York City and Mamaroneck and other places for that.
I'm aware you have, and
Yeah.
we, as I said, we look forward to that opportunity. I hope we get the chance to do all that together.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chairman, we
There's
have
one other-
nothing more. We're happy to answer questions.
There's one other question. I don't want to cut anybody off. Yes, you do.
For the benefit of those that are watching on television.
Look at the calories you're burning.
David Barnett, a Main Street resident, Tarrytown. At the risk of being redundant, I just want to go on the record. I know we've talked a lot about parking, but again, as a Main Street resident, the parking on Main Street and the parking at the train with each new project seems to be shrinking. And in response, and there's probably no answer to this right now, I realize that. But in response to that, so far I've heard something about reducing parking, or that word reduce, in context of parking. And I've heard we've accounted for the 170 cars that currently park at the train. There's going to be a lot more cars. So I just want to throw that out there again to reinforce that parking is a problem in Tarrytown, and it seems to be getting worse, not better, and we're adding projects. So,
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just to ask you, to respond for my second question had to do with the viability of the project relative to the height, and also just a clarification of what the current zoning restriction is for building height on the west side of the tracks. I'm assuming it's not viable if it can't be 60 feet high.
No, we never said that. We're here with total flexibility, and we want to work with you guys. That's my answer.
The current height that was in place for Hudson Harbor was 52 feet. And that was based on a set of negotiations that the village undertook with the developer to give them bonuses in exchange for other public benefits that accrue to the village. So it was a bonus density, a height density. And the SAO, which has not been adopted, and that's where you may have heard before that there was 5 stories or 5 floors for for west and 6 for east. I don't know what the trustees are gonna do finally in that area of height. I, of course, had my own idea of testing the waters and said that if you could generate $100 million in taxes, I'd put up a 100-story building. And a lot of developers called me up and championed me as being, Trump Tarrytown. But it didn't go well with everybody else in Tarrytown, so there's no Trump Tarrytown. Although there may be a Hyatt on the Hudson instead of a Radisson on the Hudson, but I don't know. Seriously, though, it's 5 and 6 on that SAO. It's not adopted yet. There may be more flexibility applied. There may be possibilities of density bonuses applied. We don't know yet. I don't know what the trustees are gonna do. We did recommend, as a planning board, to the trustees, to go ahead with the SAO. We worked on it a long time, very carefully. We thought it's a work in progress, that it might evolve, but it's a good start. I was interested to hear the applicant's view of it, which they thought that was favorable. I think it provides flexibility and an exciting opportunity for Tarrytown, but we'll see what the trustees finally end up doing in terms of the SAO. But that will determine the height, I believe.
I understand, just add to that, to say that it isn't simply a question of height, it's also view sheds and how much is at a certain height. So there's a lot to look at, which we will get to.
Stuart, you can, when you raise your, no, Stuart, when you raise your hand, you gotta go do the routine. No exceptions. Tell us your name and your address.
Stu Scheckman, 87 Main Street. I'm just following up on the heights of the existing Hudson Harbor and the negotiations that went on. And the last one, the River House, which is now called Lighthouse something, Lighthouse Way, it was 45 feet. That was negotiated and fought over, not 52.
Right.
But that was
But
the
the other,
maximum.
but the others, the high, I gave you the highest one.
Oh, that's nice. I'm giving you the lowest one.
Yes, Carl.
We were simply responding to the proposed, from
I'm
the
sorry, I
overlay.
can't hear you.
We're simply responding to the proposed height stated in the overlay. It's there, the 60 feet on the west side. It's proposed, it's not adopted.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying.
And also, I'd like to partially answer some of the concern about the parking, and another really important point from our point of view, and the due diligence that we've done in the last year. Parking will not be diminishing. Parking will actually get better. Not only we're going to contribute the parking and some that is existing right now, we're also going to hide it inside the structure, a nice structure with, as we said, cafes and maybe a rooftop for happy hour. But we will definitely have enough parking for our use where we are. That's for sure. I build enough hotels to understand that parking is very, very important. And the experience of the client has to be from the minute he comes to park until the minute he gets back into his car or her car and leaves the building, and they have to be happy about the experience. And any little glitch, I get a Yelp negative. Now, it's important for me to express the intention of our project to interact with Main Street, to interact with the businesses that are a little bit struggling at this point, and help, as we've done in other cities, in other towns on the river. Nyack is one of them. Interact with the businesses and encourage our clients to use the businesses, the food and beverages, the theater, and any great thing that Main Street has to offer, but doesn't have enough clients at this point, paying customers. And that's what we're intending to do with our hotel and our residents as well.
Okay, there's one more person that wanted to speak.
Good evening. I'm Dolph Beal from 108 Main Street. I believe I heard something, but I just want to clarify. I think I heard that these two things that are being considered within a week of one another, this project and the SAO, the height changes in the SAO, are totally independent, had no connection at all. What a coincidence. That's, I think, what I heard.
What are you
Is that
saying?
true? These two projects are not related, and there was no discussion going on beforehand.
What's two
related
projects?
to them. I guess, let me phrase it as a question. What was the relationship
We've been
between SAO
working on
and
this
these developers?
SAO for 4 years.
Okay.
4 years. I don't think they were born 4 years ago. So I just want to say that I can't stress enough how independent that project is and the SAO. We met these people a month ago, had no concept that they existed. This thing was drafted over a year ago with the same numbers.
Don't put your microphone lower.
My mic is
No,
on.
make it lower.
With the same numbers. So the idea that there is some collusion or something like that between these two groups is shocking.
I just wanted to
Thank
make
you.
sure. That was my understanding. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you,
so
very interesting.
A
Thank
motion
you all
to
for your time and your patience. Appreciate it. We'll see you
Motion to
soon.
adjourn?
Everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
All those in favor? To adjourn?
Aye.
Well, okay.